Countdown. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg. And before we get started, I would like to say just go ahead and hit that like button. Save you a little bit of trouble there. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. Do all that. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And that's what you need to do. So, and before we get started on everything else, I'll give you some quick announcements. Saturday night at 9 p.m., as usual, I will be doing my Saturday night show on KRTD Media, Cabrera's News Group. And so you'll hear me for 2 hours, and I will probably be discussing the civil war within the Republican Party, which is hilarious. And then on Saturday, so that will be Saturday night, and I'll probably touch on a few other stories too. Maybe even talk a little more about force of vote. It's that time of year, it's a yearly thing to do. So we'll do that. On Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jimmy Sutherland, who I just co-hosted this afternoon with, she'll be co-hosting the Willie Bragg Show with me. We had this month's been kind of things happen where the schedule is a little bit off, just a little off kilter for what and for my show as far as our scheduling co-hosting is concerned. But everything should be returning back to normal and pretty soon. On Monday, I will be at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be on the Jamar Jabari podcast. I'll be interviewed by Jamar Jabari. And on that same day at 6:30 p.m., Keaton and Russell from Due Dissidence will be guests on the Willie Bragg Show. So I am going to be busy for the next couple of days. So I'm going to do a stream today, but I ain't streaming tomorrow because I'm going to be busy this weekend all the way to Monday. So that's what's going on there. So anyhow, let's get started right now. Okay, let's get started. 2 years ago, January 6th, 2021, there was a Stop the Steal rally in Washington, D.C. Election deniers, and I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want algorithms to misinterpret what I have to say. I'll just say that there were people that were not too happy with the result of the 2020 elections, and they were very upset about it, and they decided to have this rally called the Stop the Steal rally. And it got out of control, and it ended up turning into what is now the January 6th insurrection, where they kind of stormed the Capitol. And these people stormed the Capitol. And just like then, I'll tell you like it is, I have absolutely zero respect for what was done on that day for pretty much everybody involved. Elections have consequences. I am used to having candidates losing elections. They should be too. And these are the people that were making fun of Hillary Clinton supporters in 2016 for having their meltdowns when Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 election. And they were silly. I agree they were silly. But you went from being silly to being violent, and that's what happened with January 6th. Storming the Capitol. Now, I said this before, and I'll say it again. What should be done to the people there involved with the January 6th insurrection? I would say that I think a lot of people, and if we're talking about people who don't like me, I mean, I'm talking about people, a lot of them, they don't know me, but I'm just saying these are a lot of people who would probably, a lot of them would probably like to see me dead for just disagreeing with them. They hate what I stand for. Even though I didn't vote for Joe Biden, just the fact that I have the opinions I have is enough to make me, for me to be considered an evil person. Evil things like everybody should have health care, evil things like, oh my gosh, not hating somebody because they're a gay or lesbian or trans or what have you. Evil because I think that the wealthy should be soaked in taxes. That sort of thing. I'm an evil person because I believe in strong labor unions. In other words, I believe that we should be like a lot of America's allies, Western countries that do this sort of thing, and they call it a Tuesday. And here we can't have such nice things. But suffice to say, they went and stormed the Capitol. Now, what should be done with them? I think some of these people came there to go and have a rah, 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 Biden sucked, rah, rah, rah. They wanted to go back home. They followed the crowd. They got all worked up, and they follow some of the really aggressive people breaking into the place. Okay. Misdemeanor, I think that maybe I'm talking about the people who didn't really do anything violent other than just following the crowd. Okay, a misdemeanor. Now, those that were in there instigating this, they should be prosecuted to the fullest letter of the law. Now, conspiracy theories when it comes to who did what, were there any feds involved? Was Antifa involved? Black Lives Matter involved? I'm going to tell you, when it comes to Black Lives Matter and when it comes to Antifa, I don't believe they were involved. There are right-wing people claiming that Antifa and Black Lives Matter went and dressed up as Trump supporters and caused this to happen. No, they didn't. That didn't happen at all. Do I think that maybe it's a possibility that there might have been some FBI infiltrations in there? Quite possibly. The FBI is capable of infiltrating left-wing and right-wing groups to try to stir up stuff. I'm not even monetizing. I'm policing myself to stir up shit. I can say it here, and that's what they do. It's what they do. It's in their nature. So okay, fine and dandy. Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to get to what happened in Brazil in a moment. It sucks what happened on January 6th. As far as these crazy people, the QAnon shaman guy coming in there, doing what he did and everything. And, and having people like Vice President Pence's life being in danger. I am no fan of Vice President Pence, but, and having Nancy Pelosi's computer stolen. No fan of Nancy Pelosi. I'm not a fan of a lot of people that was that they were in the establishment in that were there that day. And I'm definitely not a fan of the people that were plotting to overthrow the government. But it was a diet coup. Obviously, it was a diet coup. Now, fast forward virtually into the year late 2022. It was an election. Well, we'll talk about that because everybody wanted to say that in Brazil, that the election in Brazil that took place 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, there was an election in Brazil, and prior to the election, they put Lula da Silva in prison, who was previously one of the incumbent presidents at the time, and they put him in prison, and of course, when doing so, it was done to make it easier for Jair Bolsonaro to become president. And unfortunately, he defeated the Workers' Party's candidate, and I forgot whose name it was, who was pretty much a centrist. They pretty much said that Jair Bolsonaro was basically Brazil's Donald Trump, and I would have said that at the time, but I don't necessarily think he's. I don't necessarily think that he would be considered Brazil's Donald Trump, just as I don't believe that Lula da Silva is Brazil's Joe Biden. Yeah, I just don't believe that at all. I don't. So what do I believe about these politicians in Brazil? Lula da Silva. Lula da Silva, and Jair Bolsonaro, because he won the election. It was 2 rounds of elections. He won. I'm talking about Lula da Silva won the first round. He won the second round. Just like in America, they claimed that there was some stealing going on, some monkey business, and there wasn't. There was no monkey business going on, other than infractions. Because there's always going to be infractions in elections. So they said that Lula is sort of like the Democrat, like Biden, and Bolsonaro is more like a Trump. Again, not really. I dispute that. It's a little more bold than that. Yeah, it is. It's more like imagine if Bernie Sanders would have been running against Governor DeSantis of Florida. That's what the election would have been like, and the Bernie Sanders candidate would have won. I know. I've been complaining about Bernie Sanders, but I'm going by what people conceptualize on what they think a badass politician is on either side. And so they think that in a lot of ways you can sort of correlate Bernie Sanders to Lula, and you can correlate Jair Bolsonaro to Ron DeSantis. And with regard to Ron DeSantis and Bolsonaro, Jair Bolsonaro, the two motherfuckers do kind of resemble each other in a lot of ways. So, and they're very similar people, more similar to each other than they are Trump. Bolsonaro, a former military, Jair, Ron DeSantis, former military. Both practiced torture, enthusiastically loved torture, believed in it, and enjoyed it. So, and really, if you want to know what Ron DeSantis is like, or what Jair Bolsonaro is like, if you want to combine an American politician and a Latin American politician, imagine General Augusto Pinochet of Chile meets George W. Bush. That will probably be the best way to describe both Ron DeSantis of Florida and Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil. That would be the best way to describe both of those gentlemen. They're probably more alike than anything else. And so right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and play you what happened on a couple of days ago, January 8th. There was an insurrection in Brazil because these people, these right wingers, were sore losers, and they couldn't handle this. So they couldn't handle this. That Brazil was going to try to keep the democracy, and it's a good thing that Lula won, for the sake of democracy itself, for the sake of the rainforests, for the sake of just decency of what society's supposed to be about, and for the safety of people like Glenn Greenwald. And there are people that are going around on the so-called left in America claiming that Glenn Greenwald was in cahoots with Bolsonaro. A Jewish gay man married to a Brazilian gay man of color, and they're going to go and claim that he's in cahoots with Bolsonaro. That's just really so wrong on so many levels. And that's what some of these people have done. I'm not going to mention any names, but I know one not so well known streamer that has done that. But anyway, Kyle Kalinske, I am going to play Kyle Kalinske's take on this because I want to share my take on Kyle Kalinske's sake. And so anyway, he talks about the coup in Brazil. So let's go and take it away, Kyle.
All right, y'all. So a few days ago now, we had what I like to call Diet January 6th or Dollar Store January 6th. You had a whole bunch of Bolsonaro supporters storm the Brazilian Congress and basically try to spark an uprising and do a coup. And it was hilarious for a number of reasons. I mean, probably the most interesting reason is that at least with January 6th in the U.S., there was some theory to it. So this was the day that Congress was going to, put the final stamp of approval on the election and have Joe Biden be president. And so that was going on. And so all these Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol, they were hoping, hey, Mike Pence will say the magic words, and with this one weird trick, we can overturn the election. And when that didn't work, they thought, well, if we storm the Capitol, we can disrupt the proceedings, and then maybe the military or something, or Trump will get involved and declare martial law, and then we'll be able to hold this off and eventually get Trump in there. So there was,
and that would have never happened. I do not know why the right wing would have thought that, but that's exactly what they thought. And the problem with the right wing thinking that, what would have happened if that would have happened? Not that I take too much stock into the military, but the military didn't like Donald Trump. And they may not like the left, but they certainly loved the status quo more than they loved the left or Donald Trump. So what they would have done, I think that the military would have probably arrested these people in regard to the insurrection. They would have probably been dealt with probably more swiftly than the justice system as it is right now, dealing with people who were plotting the insurrection. There would have been less due process and that sort of thing. Due process is a good thing in a way, even if it's justice is slow on people that I would despise. But here's the thing. The thing about it is that that it would not have been successful if anybody thought for 1 second that the 3%ers were going to be officially deputized by the Trump, and that they thought that we were going to sit there and be having people like the QAnon shaman being an actual self-appointed senator or something along those lines, and he's going to be writing laws. Are you kidding me? This was, this was a joke shop coup. It was a silly coup in Washington, D.C. I actually think that the coup in Brazil was more of a danger to democracy than the coup in D.C. 2 years ago. It is comical, but it should there should be concern that it's come to that. But again, I don't think that it would have happened. But what's really odd about it is that if it would have been the other way around, And if it would have been like Trump would have been reelected and Black Lives Matter and Antifa would have been protesting against the reelection of Donald Trump, I have a feeling that there would have been something that would have been looking kind of like a coup into the Capitol, a storming of the Capitol by a Black Lives Matter or Antifa. I believe that the cops would have shot those people down. I'm sorry, it's terrible to say that, but there's a double standard. White right wingers get to enjoy the privilege of not getting, getting assaulted, but at the same time, if you're a left winger, it's open season. You can see with the laws down in Florida by Governor DeSantis, it's vague enough, the anti-protest laws down there, that basically right-leaning Cuban Americans can block a highway and nothing happens to them. But really, the law was designed to outlaw Black Lives Matter and Antifa and give people the right to run over left-wing protesters. And that is actually in effect what that legislation down in Florida would do by Governor DeSantis. I know that I'm talking about Brazil, but there's a fine line between Bolsonaro and Ron DeSantis. So anyway, I will let Kyle continue as soon as I put the play button.
Even though it was a pie in the sky, crazy idea, they didn't do the organization that was necessary to actually pull off a successful coup. There was still something on paper that you look at and go, maybe 5% chance, right? Whatever it might be. But with Brazil, they stormed it on a Sunday. Nobody was even in that shit. There wasn't even a janitor in the building. Excuse me. They were just running around, breaking shit. Somebody was defecating on a desk. I like how I use the word defecating, like I'm like a real serious person. Like, they had a bowel movement on the desk. Okay, so it's like, these are a bunch of goofballs. Now they were bussed in, and so the question is, well, who funded the buses, right? Like, where was the organization coming from? Was it Bolsonaro himself? He was hiding in Florida, going, to KFC every day. By the way, hilarious. He was hospitalized soon after he got to Orlando because he had severe intestinal distress. Now, people make the joke about KFC or whatever, but look, the fact of the matter is he was stabbed in his gut a while ago, and so actually all the issues he's had with his gut is related to the stab wound. So, but there's some reporting that, hey, there was some top Brazilian official who met with Bolsonaro in Florida. They may have done some planning for this before it happened. You have a bunch of U.S. politicians calling for Bolsonaro to be extradited now. I agree with that sentiment. I think he should face charges. If not for this, you need more evidence to know if he was directly involved with this. But if not for this, then for the corruption that he very clearly is guilty of. And I mean, he's openly said, I'm in favor of fascism. I'm in favor of a dictatorship. This is a guy who's massively anti-gay, destroyed the Amazon rainforest. The list goes on and on. Just terrible here. Terrible. Yeah.
Yes, he is. He's wants the U.S. He wants the Brazilian. He wants the Brazilian rainforest, the Amazon, to be plundered, and for the sake of profits, which would do tremendous damage to the ecology of planet Earth. I mean, the man's evil. He is tremendously racist against Black people. He is tremendously racist against indigenous people. He is tremendously anti-gay. He is religiously fanatical. He's the kind of right-wing horrible individual that one would run across in the United States. He's basically somebody with an ideology of a Marjorie Taylor Greene or someone of that nature, and that is what he's about. And he's openly favored dictatorship, and he's also made a quote about removing 30,000 people from Brazil, and that means basically an opposition. Political parties, you can interpret it as political parties, political opponents, journalists. Again, Glenn Greenwald comes to mind. And so this coup, had it been successful, what it could mean for one of the Julian Assanges amongst us. That's a truth teller and a whistleblower. We're talking about Glenn Greenwald. So who happens to live in Brazil. So anyway, I just think that what's happened, it's a copy of what happened 2 years ago, but maybe a little more of a serious matter. fascism is a serious problem, folks.
A massive cult of personality behind him, like Trump, but he's an establishment cuck. But Tucker Carlson, of course, comes trotting to the rescue, right? He has on this weirdo. And look, I love this. Look at the argument that's made with a straight face on the #1 so-called news program. Check this out.
Oh, about Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a fan of President Orban of Hungary, which is problematic. And Hungary's probably one of the most right-wing countries in the European continent today. And also, he had a radio talk show host, Jesse Kelly, on his show sometime last year. And he was open about talking about fascism in the next 20 years. Not necessarily Tucker Carlson himself, but Jesse Kelly saying, yeah, there's going to be a time where we're going to have to go and get a fascist in there. And he was saying it in a proactive sort of way. He was endorsing a fascist movement. So, again, all this is problematic. So, I'll continue as soon as I get to the little window here.
Now, it turns out, as the plot usually does thicken in these situations, that there were many an agent provocateur yesterday at these buildings and doing incredible gross damage, breaking windows and such. And it looks like this is turning into a Reichstag fire and being used to clamp down on these democratic protests. The protests are no more. The camps have been disbanded by executive and judicial mandate and fiat. And now they've set up a concentration camp where 1,200 Brazilian citizens are locked in the gymnasium and grounds of the Federal Police Training Center in Brasilia.
Reichstag fire. Now, when they talk about a Reichstag fire, now in Germany, there was a Reichstag fire. Now the Reichstag fire is that's the German parliament. And they were trying to blame the communists for this, Hitler. So they did it themselves in Germany, crossed the fire themselves and try to blame the communists for it. And so this is what the analogy is. They're claiming that they're basically trying to have it so where that they're not the bad guys at all, and that they're being framed, and that is absolutely just false. I am not a conservative. I'm not. And this is not to sit there and say everybody who's conservative is evil. I'm not a child, the way that some people on the right be like, if you have a mildly left of center opinion, you're an evil person. I mean, that's what I run across all my political life. Just listening to talk radio, or you listen to Fox News, One American News Network, or what have you, or you listen to just go on a Sunday morning on TV and just channel surf and find some. I'm not Christian bashing, but I'm just saying, find some evangelical preacher like a John Hagee or today, or back in the 1980s, Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell. Back then, to them there was nothing more evil than anybody who was just a tad bit to their left. And that's the mentality. And they will all remind you each and every day why, while if you just nuance yourself just a little bit from them on any issue, why you're just an evil person and you're just somebody who's you're not even a human being. You're just something to oppose, and you're not even you're just not somebody to disagree with. And so you're scapegoated. So this is what I have to deal with over the years with the right. And some people think I suffer from things like like now Ron DeSantis derangement syndrome, or Marjorie Taylor Greene derangement syndrome, or back in the 1980s, 1990s, Jesse Helms derangement syndrome. Well, absolutely. Because of the rhetoric that comes out of their mouths. There's no love. There's no tolerance. Even if they had really, really, really fucked up opinions, that they do not have any empathy for people who disagrees with them. I mean, I have people who I passionately disagree with that I can get along with, and they as individuals tolerate me too. So I'm not saying this is indicative of every person, but this is what I have to deal with. You know, again, I've actually have had my life threatened by people for disagreeing. I remember back in the MySpace days, there was I just out of morbid curiosity, I went into a Zionist MySpace group, and somebody told me that I ought to be wrapped in barbed wire. Why? A Kahanist told me I needed to be wrapped in barbed wire because I had something nice to say about a political party in Israel called Meretz, which is a pro-Palestinian party. It's a left-wing party in Israel that's pro-Palestinian. And that was just bad enough for me to be wrapped in barbed wire. That's the kind of mentality you have to deal with when you deal with a right-wing mindset, a toxic right-wing mindset. So, anyway, but getting back to Brazil, I hope that they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and if they're guilty, prosecute them. Everybody should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Sure, I get that, but I am tired of the far right getting away with a lot of things in this country and getting away with things around the world. So that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss and everything. So anyway, we got work to do, folks, when it comes to this sort of thing, and I have a feeling that we haven't seen the last of this here in the United States. And the violence do come from mostly the right. Not every right-leaning person. I'm not saying be suspicious of every right-leaning person, but we're talking about the far, far, far right. Yeah, there might have been something in the 60s, 70s, 60s, early 70s as you're talking about the Symbionese Liberation Army kidnapping Patty Hearst and whatever. But we're talking about that versus Timothy McVeigh in 1995 blowing up the federal building in Oklahoma City that killed 167 people. It can't compare. It can't compare. It can't compare to to a radio talk show host by the name of Alan Berg being murdered in Colorado. It can't be compared to the African Americans and the communists in Greensboro being massacred in Greensboro, North Carolina in 1979 by neo-Nazis and the Klan. It can't be compared. Or Eric Rudolph in the mid 1990s, putting explosives in a gay bar or in an abortion clinic and then running to the North Carolina mountains. That you want to know where the violence is, or James Atkinson, who went into a Unitarian church in Tennessee. I forgot the name, Knoxville, Tennessee. He went into a Unitarian church, a liberal church, went into a Unitarian church in 2008 and shot up several people, killed several people during the church service because he was pissed off with Nancy Pelosi, who is not even a leftist. But for some reason, we have such a ridiculous Overton window that people think that Nancy Pelosi is far left. I mean, and so he couldn't get at Nancy Pelosi. He said that when he was apprehended, he couldn't get at Nancy Pelosi. So he needed to get at liberals by whatever means. And so he went into a Unitarian church because they had different opinions for him. And he said he thought they were not human enough, and so he shot at them all. So, and this is what you got to deal with in America today. This is what you got to deal with. So anyway, And this is what you got to deal with in Brazil. This is what you got to deal with, wherever the right wing gets very toxic. And then you got to hear a lecture from the right wing about the left, about, what evil they're up to. Well, here in America, what the heck are they doing? What are they doing? What is this left doing? I don't see the left in any kind of influence whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. If they were, we would all be having health care. We'd be having stronger unions, and we would be having some kind of semblance of a Green New Deal, trying to do work on this environment. We would have a foreign policy that would be like not giving money to neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. So that's basically what I have to say. So anyway, I ran it on long enough. So we have here on the chat line, John Kemper, how are you doing today, my friend? Han, purple, blue, peace, Willie. Hey, how are you doing today? Let's see. Good for the indigenous people. Yes, that the fact that he lost, Bolsonaro lost. Yes, it was a positive thing for the people in Brazil, especially in the Amazon rainforest. So let's see here. We have the people there knew the people there knew when they didn't see 1 million cops on January 6th. Hence, some idiots got wild, but a coup. Yeah. Let's see here. We have, if they followed those Bibles they will point to themselves as evil. So, yeah, those that throw stones at a glass house, right? Yeah, every time. And we have Warren here today. Hey, Warren, how are you doing today? I can't wait for the secret show. I'm going to try to watch. Extra Booyah tonight. While I'm at work, but so that's what I'm going to do. But so I don't know if I'll be chatting on the chat line. If I can, I'll try. And I'm looking forward to the secret show this Saturday. Got to get my secret show fix. And we have here again, John Kemper saying, "Hey Warren." So, okay, let's see. I think that's it for the chat line here, folks. So, anyway, if you all like what you heard, press like and comment. And if you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. And feel free to share the content I have on this channel for whatever nefarious purposes. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. And remember to always reject corporate media because we know what they like to do. They like to deter us from real information and distract us with meaningless bullshit. I'm going to miss cursing when I get up to 1,000 subscribers, folks. Anyway, yeah. So always get a second opinion. Get 22 opinions if that's what it calls for. And remember, just always reject the corporate media and their narratives. Remember, there's always an agenda that they have, and it's not to our benefit. So until next time, I'm Willie Bragg of the Willie Bragg Show. I will talk to you all soon. I will more than likely, unless something really, really comes up, I will see you all Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So y'all take care. Bye-bye.